and welcome to Happy You Asked, the podcast where we explore a little thing called happiness, one awkward conversation at a time. And I am Erin Claire, your host, and the winner of the karaoke contest in her car. I'm the only contestant, does not lessen the win. I still won. I am joined today by Kelly Gardner. Kelly is a former trauma therapist turned life coach, yoga therapist, and online community leader for women. She's passionate about helping women break free from cultural conditioning, reconnect with their inner wisdom, and lead lives rooted in clarity, confidence, and self trust. Drawing on her background in mental health, yoga philosophy, and embodied leadership, Kelly creates safe, empowering spaces where women can heal, grow, and step boldly into their fullest expression, honoring both their softness and their strength. I love that. I did a yoga teacher training with Kelly a number of years ago. I'm trying to remember. Was it in St. Louis, I think? Maybe? I,
Mm, I don't
I don't know.
remember where it
I
was.
don't remember. I don't remember. And I'm like, it was good. And I took the knowledge. So thank you for it. So welcome to Happy You Ask, Kelly. It's such an honor to be able to chat with you again.
Yes, it's so good to be here. Thank you. I really appreciate your thinking of me.
Oh, yes, because I remember wherever that training was, I remember like you saying number of wise things that really have stuck with me. So I was like, Kelly's the perfect one to talk to. So I'll start with the big question here. What is your definition of happiness?
It's interesting. I think that we all have this concept of happiness, but when you drill it down to, okay, now put it in words, it's a little more difficult than you would think, right?
Yes.
So I think from my background as a therapist working in the mental health field, part of my definition is, just simply happiness is an emotion. We would find it on that emotion chart, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Spectrum. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think that I have a lot of different thoughts about happiness. Because it's an emotion, it's impossible to sustain it constantly forever. But I think that there are a lot of ways that we're influenced to believe that we should always be happy. So I
Mhm.
haven't answered your question yet, but
That is perfectly fine. No real rules here.
um, you know, my brain is one that categorizes. I think all brains look for patterns. And I think emotions have patterns and categories as well. So happiness would fall into a category of what I would describe as lightness. Being a yoga therapist, a yoga teacher trainer, and someone who has come through a profession in the mental health field, a lot of the work that I did clinically was bringing the mind and the body together.
Mhm.
And what I found in the mental health realm was that because our culture is so cognitively focused, people have a thought about what they're feeling, but they're missing the body piece.
Mhm.
And emotions are felt in the body. So that kind of takes me back to that category of lightness. Happiness is one of those feelings of um, exhilaration and energy and expansion and openness. And so to me, it would fall into this category with other similar feelings: joy, elation, excitement, things like that. So I don't know, it's hard to pin it down and
That makes
define
sense.
what happiness is. Yeah.
Yeah, especially lightness. I was thinking as you were saying that both in terms of weight, like a sort of feeling of not being weighted down, as opposed to things like sadness, which are heavier, but also in terms of actual like light. When you think of happiness or joy, it's more light filled and there aren't a lot of shadows, right? Or the shadows are pleasant, as opposed to, anger or sadness where it seems more dark. So I like that definition of light in many different senses, a sort of lightness to oneself.
I think related to that too, our emotions are tied to our thoughts.
Mm.
And in happiness, we can see a lightness in the thoughts. There's hopefulness, there's literal expansion. If we talk about how emotions change not only our chemistry, but the functioning in our brain, Barbara Fredrickson did a lot of work on the broaden and build theory. And some of her research shows that with more positive emotions, our perspective literally widens. We can see more opportunities, more possibilities, more perspectives. And I think happiness would fall into that category as well. So,
Yeah, and it does feel too just less heavy, heavy a burden to carry, right? A happiness is like, oh, I have fewer burdens at this moment. Woohoo! Right? And you don't necessarily, it's just maybe we're not focusing on those burdens in the same way. Maybe that's it. And I was thinking, as you were saying that about a book and that I've been reading called I think it's Becoming Supernatural. I think
oh,
that's
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Where about the rewiring, like
Yeah.
you rewire to actually make things possible, and if you don't do that work, then you're just going to live the exact same patterns over and over and over, which is fascinating. He gets very woo woo with it, and he goes like, "Woo!" Right, woohoo! But I dig it because it's true. Like if you don't allow for the feelings of happiness, right? If you only allow for the same patterns, you just stay in the same patterns. And of course,
Absolutely.
meditation's the answer, as we know.
Right, right. Absolutely. And, from the yogic perspective, that would be like a samskara, a rut that we're stuck in, right? That same pattern over and over. But in that book, I think it's Joe Dispenza.
Yes, Joe
Um,
Dispenza.
he also brings the body piece into it because as he's talking about rewiring, he's also saying, all right, now in your body, you've got to feel what that inner experience
Yeah.
will be once you're that version of you, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's so important. We can't have one without the other. We are a mind body system, and to really create the life that we want, to experience happiness as well as everything else, the full human experience,
Yeah.
we have to look at ourselves as a whole system.
Well, that's one of the most interesting things is when we talk about happiness, people are like, okay, how do I be happy? Well, you have to experience everything to be happy. You have to
Right?
experience the sadness as it comes, anger as it comes. You have to feel it, and you have to
Uh,
feel it physically. You can't like shove it away and just only focus on the happiness, or you won't be happy, right? And so it's kind of counterintuitive in a way. Like you have to experience all the things and accept them in order to be happy.
Absolutely. When I was working in the clinical realm, I would often describe the flow of emotions kind of like water coming down a pipe.
Mm,
And at any point, if we try to block certain emotions, we're building just a wall in that pipe so that no emotions can come through. We can't only feel the emotions we choose.
yeah,
It's kind
yeah.
of all or nothing, right? And so we're either allowing ourselves to feel whatever we're feeling or we're not. And like you were saying, all emotions create the contrast in our life.
Mhm.
And our emotions influence what we do and what we don't do, how we show up in our lives. And it can be so subconscious that we don't recognize, oh, I'm choosing not to do that thing because I'm afraid to feel what I think I might feel if I do it. Right.
Mhm.
So emotions are such a powerful piece in how we show up. Yeah.
Been thinking quite a lot about that. Uh, this idea of discomfort avoidance, right? Especially, it seems to be some theories higher in the younger generations right now, like in kids who are in high school, things like that, or like college, where if it's negative emotions, like avoid anything that is going to bring discomfort. And of course, the adult in me is like, ha 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 ha, right?
Right.
Because life is discomfort, like daily discomfort. And I don't know how you can live if you avoid all discomfort. You can't. You can't exist like alone or with others. Um, and that idea that there's something to be feared, right?
Yeah.
I think is big. Um, I don't know where I was going with that, but it just struck me.
Yeah. Yeah. our brains are wired to avoid pain. It's how we have survived throughout humanity, right? But as you just mentioned, pain is part of the human experience. And so I think we're doing future generations a disservice if we don't talk about how to overcome discomfort, that there will be uncomfortable times. And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about yoga. Um, there's so many ways that on the mat, we're training ourselves to live our lives when we're not on the mat, right? And so
Yes.
we may be directed into a really uncomfortable position in the body. But we have a sense of, okay, this isn't going to last forever. I can breathe through it. I don't have to resist, or, I can allow it. You brought that word up earlier, and it takes practice. And sometimes it's
100%.
better than others, so
I practice it daily, and
absolutely.
still struggle, still. I was in a
Absolutely.
Bikram class just the other week. Bikram's huge up here. You wouldn't expect that. Huge up here still. But yeah, very much with the discomfort. And I was like, this is what do you do now, Aaron? Do you resist this? Or do you just breathe? Be like,
Yeah.
this will pass, and you know it will pass. You will not live in this hot class for all time. You won't. And just breathe. But it takes constant practice, constant.
Absolutely. It's resilience training, right? And
Mm,
it's also training the nervous system. The nervous
exactly.
system can start to say, oh, okay, we can be uncomfortable and be okay. We can overcome challenges. We can, we're not going to die if we feel
Mm,
uncomfortable. But we have to have the awareness to even come into that practice. If
mhm.
that awareness is never presented in our lives, then we'll never even consider, you know what, I should work on being uncomfortable. We'll just fight against it because our brain is wired to avoid pain. So,
And then, we're still we're gonna feel uncomfortable. We're just gonna not be happy for a long time. I
yeah,
think about this as you were talking, like, these feelings of feeling them in the body and the physical yoga practice. But it's also one of the reasons why I love yoga nidra, because in nidra we'll say things that they'll say things that will be uncomfortable, like images you don't really want to put in your head, but then they go quickly. And you're
yeah.
meant to see them quickly, go quickly. Then here's a pleasant one. Here's a less pleasant one, and letting the ability of coming in and letting go, like Rumi's poem, The Guest House,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love that
Welcome them
one.
all. I love that one. Welcome all the emotions in, and they don't have to say it, but there's nothing to fear.
Yeah.
Welcome it. Oh, it's interesting to see something that's not pleasant. Let it go, right? In and out. And that's helped me a lot, especially when I feel particularly grouchy and I'm hanging on to my grouchiness and I don't even know why I'm grouchy. It's just hormones or whatever. Like, all right, I need to learn to let things go and train that some more. So I'll do some nidra or something like that where I can feel, let it go, let it go, let it go. So yeah.
Absolutely. And as you're describing that, you're talking about like the cyclical nature, right, of humans, of mother nature. Everything in nature moves in cycles and spirals, and we forget that we are nature. And so we fight against our nature. And then that creates suffering, right? So from the Buddhist point of view, there are multiple things that contribute to our suffering. The biggest one is forgetting who we are. So when
Mm,
we forget we're humans having a human experience, we're not going to do it perfectly. Part of the human experience is feeling all of the emotions. We fight against that and we create suffering. But something else that you said made me think of another contributor to suffering from the Buddhist point of view, and it's that nothing is permanent. When we think, all right, this should stay like it is, like I want it to be, it should never change because I like it like this, then we're creating suffering too, because nothing is going to last forever.
yeah, and I remember having a deep. It was actually with Jill Belongia. I remember having a deep conversation one time during a training, and I was like, well, I presented this concept. Well, in some ways, the whole point of yoga is to prepare us for death, right? To accept our own death because we don't want to think about it, that this is all, everything is temporary. This
Yep.
old life is just a passage to something, right? And she was like, whoa, Aaron. I was like, oh, sorry. You're right, but whoa. I wasn't ready to look at that. This is like at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But it's true. And
Yeah.
really it's to accept the fact to not suffer because that is just the nature of how things are. We don't
Right.
know when,
Right.
we don't control it.
Accepting the reality of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I
And
used to be
accepting what we don't
redirected.
control.
Yeah,
What's that?
exactly. Yeah, that's another big piece of it, right? We so often attempt to control things outside of ourselves to try
100%.
inner peace. Yeah. I was just going to say, I used to be redirected by a supervisor I had in one of my clinical jobs. I was called into his office one day and he said, "You have to stop telling all of the patients that we're all going to die." And I wasn't trying to panic anyone. I was just like, realistically, we're all going to die at some point. So how do you want to live your life? How are you going to show up today? But he was like, you're really freaking the new people out. You got to stop. So,
Yeah, I know. It's like, all right, they're not quite there at the we're all gonna die part yet.
right.
Let's slow our roll to today. Let's just if we're sad, it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. But honestly, that is something that I remind myself every single morning in my own meditation that today I am one day closer to death. Everyone that I know and love is one day closer to death, and kind of just helping me to not put things off, whether
Mhm.
in my own life or, oh, somebody popped into my mind. I'm not going to put off contacting them, reaching out to them. And really, I think that helps me to find more of those light emotions.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's two
It's
ways you can look at that. You're like, I'm one day closer to death and have a panic, right? Like,
right.
oh no, let's panic. Well, no. And every day you're one step closer, and that's okay. That's the part that people need to get to, and that's okay. Isn't this fun that we get to experience this crazy thing called life? We don't know why we were plopped here. We don't really know. Let's enjoy it. It's beautiful. It's hard. It's glorious. But that one day closer doesn't mean, oh crap, and everything's awful, right? But it's, well, hey,
Yeah,
what can I do that's cool about living today?
absolutely. It's all about perspective, right? And it really is watching what your mind is doing. Our minds are very programmed and influenced by all kinds of input. And if we don't pay attention to what the mind is doing, it's just going to run its own programs. And they're typically not to our benefit.
No,
And
no.
so if we want to contribute to our own happiness, we need to, as some would say, mind our mind. We need to really get curious about, okay, what do I think throughout the day? What is my mind doing when it's just kind of on autopilot?
Yeah.
And I think you referred to this earlier too, training it to look for the good, training it to, work to our benefit.
100%. Because, I mean, if you step back, at least for me, when I step in my meditation practice and look at my mind, it is hilarious and ridiculous, and I laugh at myself a lot. I'm like, because it's the same patterns over and over. Well, just look at the negative thing, Aaron. Just look over there. That could be
Yeah.
better. Why? And so when you step back, you're like, why are you doing that, you silly monkey? Then
Yeah.
it becomes better.
And it doesn't have to come with the like, what's wrong with me, self blame, self criticism. Really, if we can recognize, oh, okay, my brain is really just trying to help me feel safe and survive. But because of how advanced we are in our world today, we don't need that much protection. In some ways, it keeps us small, it limits us, so just watching for that, we can remind ourselves, oh, my brain is just doing what it's programmed to do. Okay, now I see it. Thank you so much for trying to keep me safe. I'm going to override that in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very safe right now. Instead, what I need to do is, hey, let's think of some things that are really positive right now.
Yeah.
And then come up with that list. And if it's hard, let's think of things that are beautiful. How about
Yeah.
that? Or I
Yeah.
mean, all sorts of things to just say, okay, not that pattern right now. Let's break through. Exactly. It's work though. Let's not lie. This is work, Kelly.
Absolutely. Our mind creates habits just like anything else in our lives, just like our behavioral habits. And so to create a new habit takes repetition.
Yeah.
And so just recognizing that too. Okay, we can program our mind, we can create new habits in our mind, but yes, we're going to have to do it over and over. We're going to spiral around through that. There's going to be times where we do it really great and then we're going to cycle back. We're going to
Mm.
default back to old ways of being. Our mind is also pre-programmed to be, our whole mind body system really is programmed to be efficient. And so, especially when we're stressed out, we're going to fall back into old habits. Oh, well, that got us through. We don't have to use excess energy. We don't have to create new thoughts or new ways of being. Let's just go back to that old safe thing that we did. And
And then
so,
be like, "And why am I still miserable, damn it?"
right, right. And so, none of it means that anything has gone wrong. I think that so often, and some of this comes from the scarcity view of our culture, we criticize and beat ourselves up and blame ourselves and think, oh, something must be wrong. But that doesn't have to be true.
No, it's a human being humaning. That's
Yeah,
what we do.
exactly. And there's always going to be the contrast, right? Like we were saying earlier, there's going to be every emotion. There's going to be things that are difficult and things that are easy. There's going to be, hot and cold. There are all the opposites. We hold
Yeah.
within us the potential to experience everything that could possibly be experienced.
Mm, yeah. Now, my audience may not know what a yoga therapist is, or how it's different than a yoga teacher. So, will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yoga therapy, I am a certified yoga therapist, so there is a certifying body there. It's
And it
it's
takes like 18 bazillion hours to get. It's
I
not
was
like,
gonna
"I'm gonna do this
say
in a weekend."
it's a longer journey, yeah, to get there on top of, like you become certified as a yoga teacher and then you would continue your studies and it becomes very prescriptive. And so yoga therapy is research based work, creating protocols to address issues in the mind body system. And
Mm,
these may be protocols that you use one on one with a client. You can do group protocols. But just like other, I don't know what I'm trying to think of, other roles that we're in that are regulated in some way, especially in our culture, there's a lot of proof, a lot of research, a lot of, this is why, this is how we found this to be helpful. So it is research based, but um, we can work as a yoga therapist. I can work with someone on a physical issue in the body, mental health issue. We can work on trauma. There's any number of things that we can work on, but the magic of it is, I mean, really, yoga and yoga therapy are a type of energy intervention, right? And so now we're going to move into the woo of it.
bring it. Woo woo. Here we
Yeah,
come.
woo woo alert. Everything in our universe is made of energy. Everything. We know that we are on a microscopic cellular level, we're little balls of vibrating energy, right? But everything else that exists in our universe is also energy. So if we are energy, we have our own frequency, and everything that we experience throughout the day, everything that we take in, everything that we do or don't do, how we sleep, what we eat, exercise, all of that influences our frequency. And so, in to kind of pull it back to yoga therapy, in yoga therapy, we're really looking at, okay, where is something stuck? How do
Mm,
we move that energy? How can we help that energy shift in the body? How can we release it from being stuck? How can we open it up? How can we energize it and bring it life? So we may pull in, typical energy things like the chakras, but we may also just be looking at, okay, something is stuck here, it's stagnant. Do we need to apply sound therapy to help shift that? Do we need to change the shape in the body so that we can open up space? Do we need to send in breath? I mean, there's lots of interventions that we can use, but it really all comes back to, and I think everything always comes back to the fact that everything is energy. It's all impacting our energy, and we have the ability to shift the energy in our mind body system.
I think that's one of the fascinating things is, I do some work with sound healing, and people are like, "Well, how does this help?" And then it's hard to explain. Okay, well, you're a ball of energy, and then, if we want the frequencies that will help you raise your energy a little better, right,
Yeah.
a little higher, and
Yeah.
that's really what we're doing. And your mind will hear that, right, and train to that level, and then it will help you, and that same energy will go. And they're just like, yeah, crazy lady, yeah, woo woo. Just play it. It will feel nice. How about that? Just go there. You're gonna like it. It will feel real good. And that's
But see,
enough, right?
I think you just made the tie back to happiness, right? Because our thoughts are energy as well. And
Yes.
often our mind can grasp like physical objects, things that we can touch are energy. Okay, yes, I get that. But so are thoughts, so are emotions. And the example I usually use to help people think about that, consider that, is there's something that we're all very familiar with. We know that it's energy because we can feel it, but we can't see it. And that's music. We
Yes.
know, right? Music can bring up an emotional response. It can take us to a memory. It can shift how we feel. And that's energy. That's a form of shifting the energy in our mind body system. So I think you kind of tied it back to that, in that, okay, I don't know how this is going to work, but just do your sound healing and I'll feel better. Like we can find our own versions of shifting that
Mhm.
energy, and everybody's different.
Yeah, and most of us will go right to music, or a lot of us, if we're sad, we're like, let's put on some happy stuff and let's dance around. And it does, it shifts you, shifts that
Yeah.
energy of your body, your mind. And then, there's different ways that's just different forms of that with sound
Yeah.
healing and other types of mantra work, things like that,
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're doing the same thing. You're like
Yeah.
taking that same energy and bringing yourself to it to help.
So I think you just described too how we're using energy to shift how we feel or to help us process what we're feeling. Because conversely, sometimes we may choose, I'm feeling kind of sad. I'm going to watch a sad movie to help me feel this and move it through. I'm going to listen to sad music, right? So, yeah, that's just a great example of kind of bringing it all together.
And I wonder too, that may be why like a kirtan or something where you're doing mantra work in a group or music work in a group, it's more people doing that around you, so that's even greater. You feel that energy even more significantly. Or like a concert. I love going to
Yeah.
concerts. You feel all of that energy even more as everybody's
Yeah.
enjoying it around you and they're giving those waves out. And so it's not just
Absolutely.
woo woo. You can measure these too.
Oh, yeah. You're
Yeah.
describing entrainment and coherence, right? So now we're
Mhm.
bringing a bunch of vibrating bodies together and we're entraining them to be in coherence, to be vibrating at the same rate, so yeah.
Yeah, that's why people love festivals and they
Yeah,
love Burning Man and things like that. They're trying to entrain around those higher, happy
absolutely.
vibes. That doesn't mean the rest of your life you got to do something with that and figure out how to do that when you're not in Burning Man, but
Right. Yeah. But
that's
it can
part of
also happen in, a good conversation or a group of like-minded people, spending connection. Our nervous systems are wired for connection, and it
it.
comes down to that vibration. Yeah, that energy.
Now, as a yoga therapist, yoga teacher, practitioner, if you could say, "Hey, world, I want you to do one thing to make you happier," what would you tell them to do?
Breathe. 100%.
100%.
100%. I always, no matter who it is, whether I'm working with a life coaching client or a yoga therapy client, or myself, I always begin with the breath. This is the cheapest, quickest, most accessible, most effective way to shift our experience in any given moment, to bring ourselves back into our bodies, to regulate the nervous system, to change our perspective. So it would be breathing.
100%. And I know this mentally, right? I teach the same thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, just stop, pause, take that conscious inhale, exhale. And suddenly your body goes, oh. But
Yeah.
yet, how many times do I get so into my emotions and feelings that I forget I have all the tools. Go back to that tool, just breathe. And it
Yeah. You're a
automatically,
human with a human brain, right?
yes, that's right. Instead, I'll rage and just, so doing the one thing that I know. But yes, if and that it's so critical. They just sit and breathe. And it doesn't have to be, sitting on your mat breathing for 30 minutes. So that's fun. It doesn't have to be that.
No,
But just a simple anywhere you are. Big inhale, big exhale. Do it a couple more
absolutely.
times.
So often in our lives, our body is in one place and our mind is somewhere totally unrelated, right? Another time and place. And so,
Yes.
even one deep breath, one of the cues that I used to use for myself is, okay, Kelly, where are your feet? Like, be where you
Mm.
are. But even one breath, let me inhale. I'm going to send that breath all the way down to my feet. Let me notice. Let me be literally grounded. Notice where the ground is. And then I'm going to completely exhale until I'm empty. I think that's another really important piece. So often when we think about breathing, it's like, okay, take a deep breath. And that's all the cueing. And many people don't know, first of all, how to actually take a deep breath. But then there's nothing taught about the exhalation. And so there's this kind of half exhalation, there's residual volume in the lungs that's left. We can't take an actual full breath next. We're holding on to things that aren't helpful for us. So not only is the full deep inhalation important, but the complete exhalation is important so that we're empty and ready for the energy of the next breath.
At I was at Kripalu recently. I love Kripalu, love it. Promote everybody go to Kripalu. And I was taking a pranayama workshop, um,
Which is
and
breathing.
yes, that's breathing, and it was somatic too. So he was having us do different exhales than we normally would ever do, like through the mouth, more forceful, right? And then the body, you do it long enough, starts reacting on its own. It's like, what are you doing? What are you? And it was so cool. And we breathed that way for like a half an hour. I was uncomfortable, and then when I was done, I felt like a new person.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Totally shifts your chemistry, first of all, the chemistry in your body. But as that happens, shifts sensations that you're experiencing, shifts your mind's perception of what you're feeling, your mind's perception of your life. Like it shifts everything. The breath is the key.
It was so, yes, everyone take pranayama's the word. Take some pranayama. You'll love it. You'll love it.
Yeah.
And
And
then it
there's
also,
lots of different kinds. So you can
so
find
many.
the type of breathing that works best for you in any given moment.
It also creates a natural high too, which is fun too, right? You feel like,
Happiness.
woo! Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Woohoo! And totally what did the Beatles yeah, oh, there was when the Beatles went and started doing yoga, that was one of the things they were like uh who was it? Was it Maharashi? I think they went to see. And he said, "Well, I don't know why they're doing drugs. They can just do yoga. It's much
Yeah.
better."
Right. Right.
Much better doing the drugs.
Yeah.
What are some of the practices that you do in your life for happiness?
Hmm. That's a good question. I'm going to give you the Ayurvedic answer. Ayurveda is a sister
Mhm.
science to yoga. It recognizes that every mind body system is individual and different. And so the typical answer in Ayurveda is it depends. So there's the short answer. It depends. Um, One of the things that consistently helps my mind body system feel um, happiness, but also maybe more just content, able
Mhm.
to show up, be resilient, deal with the ups and downs, the contrasts in life is routine. So
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent of having a consistent daily schedule. I go to bed at the same time every night. I get up at the same time every morning. I eat consistently at the same times every day. I exercise, move my body in some way every day. So that really is important to helping me feel more resilient, helping
Mhm.
my mind body system be more resilient and move toward thrive and resilience on its own, right? Our body is always doing everything it can to move toward health and thrive and balance.
Mm.
But our culture teaches us to think, oh, we're smarter than nature. We don't have to listen to what our body says or what it needs or our rhythms.
We
So,
live outside of it in this technical world, and we don't.
right,
We don't.
right. We're still living in our bodies. So that's a big piece of setting me up to experience more happiness, I would say.
You mentioned Ayurveda, which I, of course, adore. I did the lifestyle coaching certificate, and I absolutely adore it. You see, mm, I am. It's no surprise that you'll find I'm primarily Pitta Kapha. I would say it's primarily with you too, but you look like what? You Pitta? Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit.
I'm Pitavata. Yeah.
I was gonna say yes. Woo! I still got it. I was
Yeah.
like, yes. Let's look at your face structure. And what's interesting and fascinating about Ayurveda, as you mentioned, is that it's individualized.
Yeah.
So it's not just like how you're born, but what you're living right now and the issues that are going through. it's your time of life and the
Yeah,
season that you're in and all sorts of other factors. And really being in tune with that, and not just like because the corn's better this time of year, which is one thing,
right.
or peaches, eating what's in season, but also noticing the season and living within it and trying not to go against it. I think it's fascinating and really cool and different than the one size fits all medical industry that we've been living in, especially in the US, of how we treat people. It doesn't.
Absolutely. So as you're talking, we were naming like these categories that our baseline is, right? But the other amazing thing about Ayurveda is not only do we view every mind body system as individual and we want to work with that individual system, um, we can identify kind of a baseline um, thrive point that we're working toward. But one of the things that I love so much about Ayurveda is that we really are working with how we're out of balance in any given moment. That's what we're focusing on, right? Bringing us ourselves, our mind body system back to um, as balanced of a state as we can be. And because we are nature, what's happening in the seasons is impacting our mind body system. So, like you're saying, respecting what season we're in, but also respecting kind of what season our mind body system is in, whether that means what season of our life, what season in our work, what season in our family, whatever it is, any season in that way. And when we ignore all of that, again, we're taking ourselves out of the potential for happiness and into more suffering.
Yeah, and it can be disorienting as we move through seasons of life. I am moving into menopause and my Vata season of life, and it is disorienting. I
Yeah.
am not used to this. So my balancing practices for where I have been for the past few decades don't work the same way. And
Right.
and so I really have to think, okay, well, what works now to balance me and not see that as, a flaw, like there's something wrong
Right.
with me.
Yep.
This is how
Nothing
it's
wrong.
supposed to be.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just hard, but it's how it's supposed to be. It's different, I
There you
guess.
go. Yeah. Yeah. I think I've had a kind of an introspective relationship with the word hard in the last few months and recognizing how much my mind at least is programmed to think things are going to be hard, or to, I think culturally we're programmed to believe, oh, okay, well, it has to be hard to be worth it. And so as you said that, it's kind of that default of the mind, like, oh, this is hard. Okay, but is my thinking this is hard making it harder? Is there a different word? Words are so important in my life anyway.
Yeah, and the same with like a yoga practice. Like, what does hard mean on the
Yeah.
mat? And does it mean physically demanding? Does it mean mentally demanding? And what is that? Like,
Yeah.
what what are we choosing and why? And
Yeah.
how does that help us become more ourselves, which is really the goal, right? To become more ourselves, because when we're ourselves, we're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think about that quite a bit. My first yoga teacher was saying, but the point of yoga is to become more yourself,
Oh,
to find out your
absolutely.
true
Right.
self.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, oh, that's a good thing,
Mm.
as opposed to that's an awful thing.
That self-actualization, right? Becoming the best of yourself.
That's right. Or following your dharma or your true
Yeah.
path. Yeah, your purpose for
Yeah.
this earth.
You know, not too long ago, and I've studied and practiced yoga for a lot of years, but I would say within the last maybe year, I came across a description of Dharma from Deepak Chopra that really changed my view of Dharma. And he kind of drilled it down to, Dharma is your individual soul's purpose in this life journey, right? But he
Mhm.
drilled it down to when you are living your life as your most authentic self, that is your Dharma.
I love
Now,
that.
what you do with that is going to change in different chapters of your life, how you contribute, the impact you make, all how you show up in that way. But that really shifted my view of Dharma in that, okay, if I'm living my soul's purpose, truly, I am being me. I'm being authentic.
And I think that's so key because we know when we feel that authenticity, like I'm allowed to be myself, is what we'll say. I like that place or that person or whatever because I can be myself there. And the purpose really is what we should strive is to always be able to feel that way, right? To always feel like we can be ourselves and
Mhm.
that's good and okay. And when we're aligned with that and we're doing the work and we can be ourselves there and all of that, that's then I like that. It's living out our dharma, our purpose for being here.
And the always being yourself is going to shift in different situations, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes we think, okay, well, if I'm always myself, then I should always feel good. So now here's the programming of, okay, well, if I'm always myself, then it's always going to feel good. Not necessarily. One of my teachers would also say, even when you're living your dharma, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean there's not gonna be challenges. It doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable sometimes. So you can
Mhm.
still be your true authentic self and experience challenges and roadblocks and confusion and the emotions that we don't love and all the contrast as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we're, always getting better, improvement, growth is uncomfortable. It just
Oh,
is.
it has to be. Growth only happens outside of the comfort zone, right?
Mm, mhm.
So
But
it's
but being okay with that and authentic as we go through it. Like, I'm authentically growing and it's uncomfortable, but I'm doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's the accepting what is actually happening, right? Or as Byron Katie would say, being with what is.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Well, I have a couple more questions, 2 more.
Okay.
I want if you had final thoughts that you can give the world about happiness in
Mm,
whatever form that means to you in whatever way, what are your some final thoughts?
I would encourage I would encourage the world to be brave enough to feel any emotion,
Mm,
to practice, to fail and to try again, and to get really curious about what your mind is doing behind your back because we're born into systems that program us. There is no point when we're born that somebody says, "Okay, we're going to start the programming soon. Would you like to participate?" Like like we're just born into it. And so there are things that we're subconsciously programmed to think that we can't see until we start to get really curious, until we start to go in, and until we start to reflect on that. So, and that takes courage. The
Mm,
inward journey is a scary one too. So, I would encourage that.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And my last question, what is one of your favorite songs? This will go on the playlist. So, one of your favorite songs, so I can add yours to that.
So, favorite songs of all time or favorite song right now?
Either one. I leave it way
Mm.
wide open for you to choose whatever your heart would like.
So, I would say my favorite feel good genre is 80s like hits, 80s pop hits.
Yeah.
And probably one of my all-time favorite songs, and I'm kind of giggling because it totally ties into what we've been talking about today, would be So Emotional by Whitney Houston.
Ah, perfect. Yes. Yeah, look at how you wrap that theme all
I
together,
know.
Kelly.
It's such a good one. And at the very beginning, the first thing she says is, "I don't know why I like it. I just do." So it just feels good.
I love that. Feel all the emotions,
Yeah.
right? That's a perfect theme. You know what?
And that takes courage
It
and breathing.
100%. And breathing. Breathe. Breathe,
Yeah.
everyone. Breathe.
Mm.
It is always such a joy to talk to a fellow yoga teacher because yoga teachers, one thing we love to talk about, yoga and all related things because it's incredible. But it's also especially good to talk to you with all of your experience. Thank you for sharing that wisdom with us and invigorating me to continue to do the things that I know I should.
Yeah. Thank you for everything that you're doing to raise the vibration of the world. Please keep it up. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank you
asking me to
so
be
much.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time. All right. Bye.